Hello everyone, Mariko Bear, realtor with Bridgewell Real Estate Group, and welcome back to the Bridgewell Group YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Mariko. I'm a residential realtor based in the Greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley area of the Lower Mainland, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I talk about all things real estate, whether that be buying, selling, investing, real estate news, neighborhood updates, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you already have, then welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about buying and selling simultaneously. So I think that the reason why I wanted to create this video for you guys is because even though it is a stressful process, I think that it's not something that needs to be as stressful as it often is. And so the purpose of this video is really just to provide you with some tips to make the buying and selling process when they're done simultaneously a lot easier. Also give you guys information on the nuances of buying and selling simultaneously. But a primary portion of this video is going to be about whether it's best to buy first or sell first. And there's no right or wrong answer. It really is a personal decision, and it also depends on market conditions. So I'm going to go through some of the dialogue that I go through with my own clients in figuring out what the best decision is for them, and hopefully it helps you as well. So I wanted to start with basic. What does it actually mean when I say that you are buying and selling simultaneously? So what this typically looks like is you have a home that you either want or need to sell. In order to buy another home that you are going to either upsize, downsize, make a lateral move, invest in, whatever that be, and you're trying to make it so that the dates of your sale line up well enough with the dates of your purchase so that your sale can fund your purchase. So obviously when we are looking at this, there are a lot of nuances. You need to find a home to buy, you need to sell your current home, and so there's a lot of preparatory work that can be put in to make things a little bit easier and more straightforward for you. So number one, you want to get a market evaluation for your existing home. It is absolutely imperative that you have an accurate comparative market analysis so that you know what you can sell your home for beyond a reasonable doubt. So you want to get a worst case scenario number, like a very conservative number, and you want to get a best case scenario number, and you want to of course get like an accurate estimate, what is most likely beyond a reasonable doubt number. And so if you have that range, that should give you a really good idea of what you should be able to buy once you have number two, which is your pre-approval done. So you want to get a pre-approval done by a mortgage broker. Typically that mortgage broker is going to ask you what you could sell your home for, so that's really why that market analysis is step number one. You'll be able to provide them with that information, and then they will also ask you for additional income documents so that they can run all of the numbers for the pre-approval and give you estimates for what you could buy based on what you're going to sell for. And then obviously with mortgage constraints, stress tests, interest rates, what that budget is going to look like for you so that you can determine whether that's a comfortable move up, down, downsize, lateral, all of those things, and if it's actually within your means to be able to do it. So I think that those are really the first two big things: is get a market analysis on your existing home and then get a pre-approval. Now the other thing that is kind of like a pro tip is obviously the one of the biggest stressors here are dates, right? You have a lot of different parties involved. You've got yourself selling your place, you've got the buyers of your place, you've got the sellers of the place that you're going to buy, and then maybe the sellers of the place they're going to buy. There's a lot of parties involved that all have their own idea about dates and their own personal timelines for these dates, right? So dates can be a really big sticking factor, and if you can talk to your mortgage broker about something called bridge financing. Bridge financing is essentially an option where you may be able to bridge the gap between when your sale completes and when your purchase completes. So in a traditional setting where the money from your sale moves to the money to your purchase, then you have to move into your purchase, and then you have to move out of your sale. That can all be a very quick, very tight, and very idealistic timeline, right? But it's not always realistic. And so allowing yourself a little bit of flexibility with the dates and seeing if you have an option to bridge, which would essentially allow you to have your completion date for your purchase happen before the money is funded for your sale. That bridging really could help you to allow time to renovate before you have to move in, or slowly move instead of move within a 24-hour period. So this is something that I would definitely recommend to look into and ask a mortgage broker about, if and how you could qualify for bridge financing. Because if there's like one thing that I would say really helps when you are buying and selling simultaneously, aside from just the basics of getting a pre-approval and getting a market analysis, bridge financing really is that one thing. And it can alleviate a lot of stress for a lot of people, and provide you flexibility when it comes to negotiating as well, because you don't have a firm hard set date. So that's a big one that I can definitely recommend to you. So last but not least, for the preparatory work, I want to clarify the deposit required for the purchase. This is probably the biggest area that people make mistakes when it comes to buying and selling simultaneously. And the mistake is that they make the mistake of thinking that when they sell their property, and you get an accepted offer and subjects removed and the deposit is handed in, that deposit goes to the seller and can be used to purchase, and put a deposit down on their purchase. And that is wrong. That is absolutely not the case. So when you sell your home, and completion has not occurred yet, you don't get any money until completion has occurred. That deposit that gets put down when the deal goes firm, typically, at least in the Greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley areas, is held in trust by the buyer's agent's brokerage. You do not get money for your sale until it actually completes. So this is a big issue for some people if you're buying and selling simultaneously, because whether you're buying first or whether you've sold first, the idea is that when you buy, you need a deposit in order to also, make that purchase firm. So that deposit is typically 5% of either the initial offered price or the agreed upon purchase price. So when you are buying and selling simultaneously, please make sure that you have either the money in your bank liquid to be able to fund 5% of what you are looking to purchase. And if you don't, talk to a financial advisor, talk to your mortgage broker. You may need to look into setting up some kind of line of credit option, or maybe some kind of deposit like loan option short term, so that you are able to purchase a property, and then once your actual sale happens and it completes, you'll be able to pay back that deposit or pay back that loan if you didn't already have the money already. So that's my last tip before I move on to buying first versus selling first and those pros and cons. Please make sure that you have your deposit money lined up for your purchase before you actually put your home on the market. Now, moving on to buying first versus selling first, I want to go through the pros and cons of this based on personal situations, okay? So starting off with selling first, what are really the big pros when it comes to selling first? Number one is definitely that you've sold. So you've sold, you don't have to worry about carrying two mortgages in the event that you bought first and you didn't end up being able to sell your home. That's something that you don't have to worry about. You sold your home. Number two is that you know exactly what you've sold your home for. So obviously you can see that the big pros that are surrounding selling first are all with regards to budget, really. You know what you've sold for. Maybe you sold for more than you expected, and maybe that's going to impact your decision on what you buy. Maybe you sold for less than you expected. Of course, that's going to impact your decision on what you are going to buy or what you can buy, right? So knowing exactly what that number is a really important factor to this. Now, on the con side, when it comes to selling first, you may feel rushed to buy something. So if you are in a situation where you don't have alternative accommodation and once you've sold, you really need to buy, just know that you may feel pressured to buy something that might not check absolutely all your boxes. Or if inventory is low, you may be putting yourself in a little bit of a risky situation where you're either going to be, at a lack of housing situation. Maybe you need to rent or do an Airbnb in the short term, or live with family, friends, something like that. Or you're going to need to compromise based on what is actually available within that time frame. So that's really a big one when it comes to a con for selling. But as you can, probably guess, is that if you have alternative accommodation, this is a really great way to counter that risk of selling first. And if you do have alternative accommodation and you are really, concerned about selling, maybe it's more of a buyer's market, then selling first might be a really good option for you. Now, buying first is different, right? When you are buying first, you're not really working on a timeline because you haven't sold anything yet. So you're waiting for the right home to come along that works for you and your lifestyle and your wants and your needs. So once you find that place, the pro is that you found your dream home. You found the one that you really, really want, right? And you don't need to compromise on what you want because you haven't sold yet. That's really the big pro when it comes to buying first. Now, the big con when it comes to buying first is that you don't truly know your budget because you're only working off of estimates. And that's why that comparative market analysis and getting those that range of numbers where you have the conservative number and working off that conservative worst case number is going to be really, really important if you're buying first. Because if you're buying first, you really want to work off worst case scenarios for your sale numbers to make sure that you don't stretch yourself too thin. So when you are buying first, that is really the con, is that you don't know exactly what you sold for. And then also opposite to selling first, you do run the risk of not being able to sell and potentially carrying 2 mortgages. Now, if this is not a concern for you because you have the ability to be able to carry both mortgages and you don't necessarily need to sell in order to buy, then buying first might be a really good option for you. Another reason why buying first might be a good option for someone is if they really only want to move if they can find a certain property. If you're really particular about the type of property that you're purchasing, or the inventory for the type of property that you're purchasing is very, very low or rarely comes up, then buying first may be a better option for you. So there really are pros and cons to each, and there's ways or situations where based on your personal situation, you could potentially mitigate the cons or the risks of buying first versus selling first. So that's what I mean when I say it really is a personal decision. Now, there is another factor to buying first versus selling first, and it really is market conditions, right? And this is something that you should be asking a realtor about, but that you really should be considering when making the decision to buy first versus sell first. When the market is really, really, really hot and it's a seller's market, you have, high demand and lower inventory, then buying first may be the better option. When you are buying first, yes, you may be pressed to sell, but when you know that things are selling really quickly and without a lot of friction, then beyond a reasonable doubt that it is going to be easier to sell than it is to buy. So that kind of market condition, a hot seller's market, might be better supported to buy first than to sell first. Now, if you are working in a much slower market, whether that be a balanced market or a cooler market that is more of a buyer's market, that is typically supported by selling first. And so the risk with a cooler or a balanced market is that typically you have lower sales, typically you have more inventory, and you don't have a ton of demand, or you have less demand than you have inventory. And so when that happens, the risk of not being able to sell or not being able to sell in a timely manner increases substantially. And so if you're buying first, that could be a really big risk because the odds of you selling are lower than a hotter market. So that kind of cool or balanced market, often you'll see a lot more people sell first. And so this is really the point, is that, there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to selling first versus buying first. Really, it's a combination of market conditions and figuring out what type of inventory is out there for you, how much of that inventory there is, and what the risk is when it comes to selling first versus buying first, and what those conditions look like. And then also your personal situation, what your personal preferences are, what your own risk tolerance is, what your abilities are to mitigate the main risks when it comes to buying first versus selling first, such as having alternative accommodation. These are the kind of things that you should be thinking about. Obviously, a lot of this comes back to making sure that you have the right team around you and that you are educated and supported. There's so much preparation and so much work and analysis when it comes to buying and selling simultaneously that can really make this process so much easier for you. And so, as I mentioned before, starting off with the right realtor. Of course, if you guys are looking in the greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley area, I am absolutely more than happy to help you. You really want to start with that market evaluation and making sure that you have the right information and proven data and stats to really show you that that sales price is supported. So you want recent comparable sales that can actually show you that the sales price is supported. Getting that pre-approval, figuring out about bridge financing, like a lot of these things are going to be able to determine that budget and help you determine exactly what type of inventory you need to be looking at. And then coming back and asking your realtor about how that micro market is moving. So that is very, very important information, how your micro markets for both your sale and your purchase are working, so that you can make an educated decision on whether it's better to buy first or sell first, whether based on the market conditions, and then also factoring in your personal situation and how that may impact that preference on buying first versus selling first. So, as I said, it is a complicated process. I totally get that, but hopefully this video has helped you to be able to be informed and educated and know what to look for. As I said, my name is Mariko. I am a residential realtor in the greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley area. And so if you are looking for a realtor to help you buy or sell in any of those areas, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I would be more than happy to provide you with a comparative market analysis and really just support you along this journey to make the buying and selling process as streamlined, easy, and stress-free as possible. And it's something that we do all the time with our clients, as we're one of the top teams in the Vancouver area. So I hope that this video was helpful again for you, and definitely feel free to reach out to me if you are looking for a realtor to help you buy or sell. Let me know below if you have any questions. Definitely leave it in the comments. Like this video if it was helpful for you, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much. Have a great day.